talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome to View from the West podcast, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state of Illinois. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, joined once again, as always, back in the virtual studio, Mitch Stormer. August is upon us. It's football season, man. We're here.
I know. What is our fourth season, fifth season?
I believe it's our fourth season. I think we started, of all things, we started in the weird spring football season. Yeah. And then we went from there. So here we are.
Yeah, we're getting right into our prime here, Greg. Yeah, this is exciting. It seems like it's taken forever and taken no time at all, which is really weird. But you see the articles coming out, the preview articles. You just you can see the excitement already starting. The practices, helmets only, shoulder pads are coming, full pads are coming. So we're at the sweet time of the year. So this is very, very exciting, and glad to be back with you here for another long campaign.
That's right. So Mitch, if this were in terms of being a high school football player, this is our fourth football season. I think we're ready for a starting role now. I think we've finally gotten there. Right? As a senior year. Yeah, it's our senior year. We're ready to start on varsity. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I think that doesn't mean we're going anywhere. We're not going to graduate. We're still going to be around for many.
Hey, if we're going to get recruited this year, we'll see. But you know what? We're going to go out strong no matter what.
Well, Mitch, speaking of getting out strong here, a big first episode, a big welcome back. We're going to get into some of the preseason talk here, but we obviously have our full conference previews down the road starting next week. But to kick off this football season, the second half, we're going to be joined by Edgy Tim, the Edgy Tim for, Illinois high school football. We call him a guru. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's a legend in the Illinois high school football landscape. So yeah, great to talk to him and get his perspective and, learn more about some things that we don't cover necessarily. He's more in the Chicago and bigger schools. So good to get his perspective and learn more. And again, share that excitement that we have with someone else who has the same. So yeah, a great talk with him.
Yeah. So everybody stick around for the second half. We'll interview Edgy Tim. Like Mitch said, he has a great perspective on football happening around the state. It really is kind of informative, what we can look to and what we can expect around the state scene. And always good to talk to him and check in with him. So the second half will be joined by Edgy Tim. Mitch, it's a new football season. We have a lot of exciting news. Mitch, we have some sponsorships in place now. We have some sponsors on View from the West. We wanted to make those announcements here on our first episode. We start with Breedlove Sporting Goods out of Kewanee, Illinois, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, online team stores. Really happy to have Breedloves in with us. And, helping us out here supporting View from the West podcast. But that's not it. We got more sponsorships coming in this season. Mathewson's mini helmets online. They're on Facebook. They're on Twitter. They do great work. I believe they made helmets for Roval Williamsfield a couple years ago. They do great work. We connected with them. And actually, Mitch, we have some big news to announce along with Mathewson mini helmets. We now have the Mathewson's mini helmets player of the week. So once we get into the football season, Mitch, you and I are going to nominate a player of the week from our area based on stats, based on performance. Who was the most valuable player leading their team? The winners of each week will receive their own custom View from the West player of the week mini helmet. How awesome is that?
Love it. If you've listened to this podcast before, you know how big we are into helmets. And so this partnership is really cool. So looking forward to this, looking forward to be able to give the kids something that they can look forward to for a great performance. So yeah, I can't wait to see what the result of these looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get it going. I'm excited to roll out. When I see that first picture, I can't wait to tweet it out and just get people excited, right? I want people to get excited to win that award. So we'll get that, the images out there as soon as we can, as soon as we get them in. I'm excited for that. Our third sponsor this season, on View from the West, Brink Sportswear. Brink Sportswear offers totally custom, made-to-order football uniforms that allow coaches and athletic directors to take control of their own brands. We'll hear more about them in the break here, but you can head to brinksportswear.com. Check them out if you're interested in looking for some football uniforms. Really good to have them on board as well as a sponsor this season on View from the West podcast. So, Mitch, a lot of fun, exciting stuff from our sponsorships, a lot of fun and exciting action getting ready to take place on the football season or on the football field this season. We're jumping into our previews next week. We're going to run down here. We'll give a little bit of a look ahead at the schedule we have coming up. So Tuesday, August 8th, that's going to be our NUIC and 8-man football preview. We're going to bring in Kyle Kampmeyer. Mitch, I believe you're going to try to join us for that one. You'll be road traveler, but you'll be trying to make it in with us.
Yeah, I should be live from Dallas, but yeah, I should be in on that.
All right, sounds good. Well, you can give us a Texas high school football update while you're there then.
That's right. I'll ask around. Yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So August 8th will be our NUIC and our 8-man football preview. On Thursday, August 8th, we're actually going to double up and do 2 episodes in a week to make sure we get all our previews in. That will be the newly formed Lincoln Land Conference. We'll cover both the big schools and the small schools there. So, of course, we're talking about, the former Lincoln Trail Conference now merging with the Prairie Land. We'll get those conference previews in there. That's the LLC preview on August 10th on that Thursday. The following week, August 15th, we'll get into the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. And Mitch, every year, that's the big one. That's the monster because there's just so many teams, so much information to get to. That will be August 5th. And then we'll cap things off on August 17th with our Western Big Six preview. And for previewing the Western Big Six, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to bring in the score crew. We're going to have Matt Randazzo, Corey Kuffler, and Brian Stocking. And we're also getting our voice from Quincy, Matt Shuckman, going to join us as well.
Oh, boy.
So I asked if you wanted in on this one, and I think you said, nah, it's good. We got enough voices.
That's a lot of heads. That's a lot of brilliant media members in one room. So
Brian Stocking.
Right.
I'm just kidding. kidding.
Okay. No, we'll see what happens. Happy to give up my seat for Matt Randazzo. He needs all the help he can get. And so I'm happy to give him the spotlight here once. And but looking forward to all these shows. Again, it's just so exciting that we're back. We're back in season mode now as we gear up towards week 1 on August 25th.
Is it the 24th or 25th?
I don't know.
It's that week. That's the week it happens.
It's around there. So yeah.
August 25th. You were right. I should have corrected you.
Yeah. So under 30 days. So yeah, we got a lot to get out there in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, this is great.
So Mitch, we have sent out our season preview form to all head coaches from all the conferences we just mentioned. We've gotten a lot of them back. But this is a little, a little reminder to all of our head coaches listening. If you have that email sitting in your inbox, I may be emailing you again to remind you. But If you see it, please go out there, fill out the information form. It really helps us out with information so we know what's coming in the, in this upcoming season. Give us some names, give us some stats, give us anything you can. Any information helps us out. It's great for talking points. Mitch, what have you seen so far in the, in the forms that have come in? What are you looking at? What excites you about this upcoming season?
Boy, quite a bit. Greg, there's a lot of intrigue this season. I think we're going to see a lot of teams that have to replace quite a bit of offensive production. I'm looking at Sterling in that perspective. A Princeton team has to reload a lot. So, and then you see your traditional teams, Lena Winslow, where Coach Aaron says they need to improve everywhere. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that at all. But, I think we're going to see a really good mix of teams that bring back a lot of starters, a lot of experience, teams that in the past have been younger, and now those players are much more experienced now. And I think there's conference races that are wide open. I think there's some traditional champs that might have some teams a little bit closer on their heels than previous years. So certainly a team that we're both excited about, Quincy, is this year that they break through in the Western Big Six. Just so much intrigue. really looking forward to seeing how it shakes out.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the Western Big Six, I think Quincy's kind of that team that we looked at last year and thought like there's a lot of potential there, and they lived up to it for the most part. And they fell a little bit short against Sterling. They fell short against Moline, but other than that, they're right there. And so I think this year, as a year older, a year more mature, I got a lot of pieces back. That's a team that they should be making some noise. They should be in the mix, I would think, definitely, along with the names you mentioned, the Moline, the Sterling. What's Rock Island look like with Fritz Deodone stepping in as head coach? There's and Geneseo was improving last year. So
and that's a great point too. Teams with new coaches, Rock Island, Morrison, Erie Prophetstown. So we got a lot of new faces on the sidelines as well. So another season. We see things like this, of course, every year. So the excitement just doesn't go away. So I think there's a lot of intrigue. And I can't wait to see how it all plays out this year.
Yeah, Mitch, a team you just mentioned with a new head coach is Morrison. Yeah. And, it's a name you're familiar with. Nate Vandermeide steps in as head coach. He's been an assistant out there for a while now, obviously played quarterback, for the Mustangs back when they were just on the verge of becoming, a state champion. I think he was a year before they made their first run, correct?
Yeah, so he went to the semifinals and then the quarterfinals, and I think it was the team after that.
Yeah,
because that was when Danny Dennehy was there. So I believe it was the next season, if not the second season. But he was right in that really good stretch of Morrison football. He was right at the heart of it.
And I think he takes over at a really interesting time where last year, Morrison had been down the year before, and then all of a sudden it was like, they played really well last year and made the playoffs. And just a lot of young talent on the field. That's what we kept hearing and kept seeing. Yeah. So I'm really curious with a pretty good roster returning, pretty athletic, fast roster. Yeah. Where does that team end up?
Yeah, their preview from Friday Night Drive, and I apologize to who the reporter was, but the quote from one of the players was that their speed was going to kill. And I believe that. They have guys going back. They started freshmen and sophomores last year, Greg. So this is a very, very exciting team. Looking at their schedule, pretty favorable too. They don't have Newman on the schedule, which I don't know when the last time that was, but favorable schedule for the Mustangs this year. So one of my teams to look for certainly in the Three Rivers this year. Their last season in the Three Rivers.
Yeah, that's also kind of an interesting note there. Another team speaking of the Three Rivers, I've been hearing a lot about Sherrard. We saw them. They had some talent on the field last year, some young talent. Can they keep that momentum building? Coach Johnston, we talked about him when he was hired, that we felt like that was such a good hire because he was someone that could really build that program. And I felt like it's right there. They're kind of knocking on the door. I know Ty Taylor's very excited about what he's seen out there. So that's one to follow for sure. What other schools? You start looking at a team like Roval Williamsfield. If we move over into the Lincoln Land Conference. Yeah,
another team that we talked up last year as a team that started a lot of younger guys, underclassmen, or at least juniors, bringing a lot back. So I think we put in our little preview tweet about them that we think their eyes are on a title this year. I certainly believe that because, again, with the experience that they bring back, a lot of starters on both sides of the ball, really looking forward to seeing what the Cougars will do this year. Again, another playoff run, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's, Roval Williamsfield, Anawan Weathersfield. You look at, they kind of separate themselves on the top of the small school side, I believe, with some other names maybe in the mix. But then on that big school side, that's a really interesting conference. When you look through with names like Macomb that had a great year last year, you look at Mercer County that's always in the mix in what was the Lincoln Trail. Farmington has had a competitive team year in and year out. Trying to think of who else. Elmwood Brimfield has been a good team, solid program over the years.
Illini West,
Illini West, yes. That conference is really interesting. I'm excited to follow that conference race as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about a big conference preview with Three Rivers, the new LLC. That one's going to probably
that's true
for longest preview because there are quite a few new teams. That's exciting, right? New teams to cover this year.
Yes, we do have new teams that haven't really been. They've been in our periphery, but we haven't really focused in on them like a Farmington or a Macomb. So that'll make for some longer episodes, which so more content, I guess we'll keep cranking out.
We'll see new teams in the regular season too. We talked about Lena Winslow. They play out of conference against St. Teresa, which is going to be awesome. I think St. Teresa plays EPC too, so we'll see them a couple times. We'll see, games that we're looking forward to that we haven't or that we don't normally see. Sterling and Princeton. Is it Geneseo and Mendota? I think.
Yep. That's another one.
Newman and Rock Island. I mean, what
Yeah.
circumstances would that ever happen? So there's a lot of fun matchups this year that we haven't seen before that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, and before we wrap this up, we have to talk about the Northwest Upstate Illini. I mean, you talk about the conference is fun to cover every year. You have Lena Winslow, obviously back, defending state champions.
Yep.
Yeah, where do they come into this season? I think they're right there. They're right in the mix again. But Forreston made a run to the semifinals after going 5-4. Looked like a very talented football team as well. You have Dupec, who's been continually on the rise. Where's Dakota fit into this mix? Where's Fulton fit into this mix? That conference is always fun to watch. So
yeah, can't wait for that 8-man. Speaking of the annual, Amboy could be the favorite in 8-man this year with what they bring back. So and certainly the 8-man landscape looks a lot different with players in different places, teams not feeling a team this year. So another season, same excitement, new challenges for everybody. And can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. So to the coaches who are listening, who haven't filled out your season preview form, it should be sitting in your email. I may send a reminder out as well. Please get out there, fill out your season preview form. It helps inform us, helps give us the information we need to get this podcast up and rolling and, make us sound smarter than we are probably. Yeah. But
I don't remember who it was. I think it was Rover Williamsfield who put their last names phonetically, which helps so much.
Oh, yeah.
I hate to ever mispronounce someone's last name, and we try our best to find out what it is, and we don't always get it right. So I appreciate the effort there on that preview form.
Well, I think he did that because we butchered
Butchered it so much. Yeah.
Bertle's chauffeur. We got it now,
right.
But we didn't have it for a long time. Yeah. But
or anyway, what was the running back from Forreston last year? I always Keebler. I call him Keebler.
Johnny Cobbler. Cobbler.
Yeah, I whatever it was.
So yes, thank you to the coaches who filled it out. If you haven't yet, please go out and do that. That would be great. Mitch, one more thing before we get into our interview with Edgy Tim. The news this week that the Bureau Valley High School has approved wanting to move to the Lincoln Trail Conference.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be voted on by the Lincoln Trail. Now, obviously, the Lincoln Trail now in football is the Lincoln Land. So I believe they would slip into the Lincoln Land Conference, most likely on the small school side. Mitch, as someone who, grew up in the Three Rivers, and as someone who, when you were there, Morrison and Bureau Valley were big rivals. So what is this? Yeah. What did you think when you saw this news?
It's two former state champs, leaving. And it goes back to what we've talked about with the Three Rivers in general, that they've, with Mercer County coming in and in the past bringing in teams like Sherrard or Mendota, it just kind of seems to be going towards a bigger school conference, and so it's unfortunate for the history of the conference. Certainly for the health of the conference, it's good to always bring in new players and make sure it's thriving. But teams like Morrison leaving, teams like Bureau Valley leaving, what's going to be left for the Riverdales, for the Sterling Newmans? What does the future look like for those schools? But it's a great move for BV because of that, right? They're moving into a conference now where they're going to be playing. And enrollment is the biggest driver of this. I think BV's enrollment is somewhere down like 250 or something.
Yeah.
So, to be able to get a schedule filled with, with the A-Towns, with the Antelope and Weathersfield, teams that might fit their enrollment levels a little bit better than Spring Valley Hall,
Yep.
So for BV, again, I think it's a great move. And it's just the way it is right now with teams moving around conferences. And it's, again, the one side of the coin is it's unfortunate to see some of those things move. This isn't, UCLA going to the Big Ten type of weird. It's not like that. It's not a money play. So again, the one side is that you hate to see the tradition leave. But on the other side, it's necessary, and it's a good move for BV to stay in front of it, to be aware of that. And it presents a new challenge and new faces to play. So I like the move, certainly pending that vote, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. Yeah, I mean, if it gets approved by the Lincoln Trail Conference, I think it's a good fit all the way around. Like you said, based on the numbers and kind of where things fit, as far as enrollment wise, and it's geographically, it's not too far out. They still fit fairly well geographically. So, yeah, I was just kind of surprised to see that news, but it's something that actually Ty Taylor had kind of put on our radar when we had our episode talking about Mercer County moving and Morrison moving. He had kind of laid it out there and thought that was a possibility. And as it turns out, here we are talking about it. So,
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mitch, that does it for the first half. But let's take a quick break here and jump in and hear from Edgy Tim.
Sounds good.
View from the West podcast is brought to you by Brink Sportswear. Brink Sportswear offers totally custom, made-to-order football uniforms that allow coaches and athletic directors to take control of their brands. The uniforms are available in sublimated and tackle twill. They offer free digital mock-ups, free shipping on team orders, and free physical samples before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting before you spend a dime of your program's money. Uniform sets start at $99 for sublimated and $120 for tackle twill. Head to brinksportswear.com. For the perfect gift for your high school athlete or your team, check out Mathewson's Mini Helmets. Customizable football mini helmets for your team or your athlete. They also have car decals available. Head to Mathewson Mini Helmets on Facebook or on Twitter for more information.
The Quad City's first and only fantasy football show, For Fantasy's Sake, has you all covered when it comes to all of your fantasy football needs. The guys come to you live every Sunday morning during the football season from 10 to 11:30. They've got the best analysis, rankings, DFS, and gambling advice between the Rock and Mississippi Rivers. So tune into For Fantasy's Sake every Sunday during the football season from 10 to 11:30 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube.
Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They provide the same sporting goods services the big nationwide companies do, but at a way faster turnaround, and their uniform prices are a fraction of the cost of what you're probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or shoot an email to calbreedlove at calbreedlove@gmail.com.
Welcome back to View from the West podcast. The second half, here we go, ready to get going. And Mitch, we're kicking it off the season. We're kicking off this second half with a special guest, a big special guest. I'd like to welcome into the View from the West podcast, Edgy Tim. I'll speak on behalf of Mitch. We've been following your work for a long time. And, we heard you even give us a shout out, I think, last year on your podcast. We really appreciate it. So thanks for taking some time and being here.
You guys do great work. And, again, I learned a long time ago that, God knows I've tried, but I can't cover the entire state myself. So, sometimes you have to rely on other sources, and then the work that you guys have done has been really good. So much appreciated from my end for sure. But glad to be here. I just like you guys, we're under 30 days getting ready for kickoff, and I got notes, I've got things everywhere here. So just starting to get to the nitty gritty. But no, thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, great. It's funny you bring up that, as hard as you try, it's impossible to cover the entire state. I'll backtrack about 10 years ago. And, in some weird way, you were actually kind of an inspiration for, a motivator for what we're doing here, what we're doing on this podcast. And I will say maybe not so flattering as inspiring, because I used to listen to your podcast and think, man, I wish you would talk more about Sterling, or I wish you would talk about Morrison, or I wish you would talk
a lot.
And it would drive me nuts. And so eventually that was kind of my spark to say, well, wait a minute. I could do it. I could talk about it. So no, all joking aside, I've always, followed your work and followed your coverage. And I think in the last few years, especially with the Third and Lang podcast, where you guys really focus on the small schools and you really get into the nitty gritty of those schools, that, that work is being done. You guys are finding the, all the corners of the state, all the big schools, small schools, everywhere in between.
I appreciate that, and that was something a couple years ago I set out because I caught a lot of grief about not a lot of small school coverage, and I tried to explain to people for a long time that look, I don't want to overlook or gloss over small school football because number one, I know how important it is to people. It's just as important as every other level of football in the state of Illinois. I know that. I know that firsthand. I mean, I've been all over the state for almost 30 years, so I get it. But I also didn't want to half-ass it. I don't like half-assing things. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to dig into it. And when we continue to expand, went from 5 classes to 6 classes to 8 classes. Yes, I'm that old, as you can tell. There had to be a cut line. There was just no way I could continue to, as the schools mounted and things continue to build up. Oh, and by the way, guys, girl dads and all you girl dads and young, I had a family then too, a very young family, doing mine on dial-up, I'll add.
Yeah.
So there had to be a cut line. And it was an area that I always said I wanted to get back to and try to find a way to do it. And I mean, if you know Matt Lang, he's unique. He's a character. Him and I get along great. And just thought it would work. And we really enjoyed doing it. And as you guys know, the feedback from the coaches has been phenomenal. It's, they really have embraced us, and we're going to continue to do it because number one, we have fun doing it. Number two, if someone can learn something off of it and it brings more exposure to small school football, which I think it has. I know there's some bigger school football people that kind of follow it more now than I think they did before, then that's great. That was the whole reason for doing it. So thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah. Let's kind of get into, who is Edgy Tim? What is Edgy Tim? Where did I've always wondered where the name come from.
Oh yeah, I know. I get that all the time. So we'll go through it. Okay. You guys obviously watch the state football finals, right? Dave Bernhard, the voice of IHSA.
Yep.
You can blame Dave Bernhard for giving me that name many, many years ago out in the Joliet area where I live and still live. There was it was a little unique for its time. It was a community TV call-in sports show, which you didn't see too many on TV. They're always radio, but it was called the Sports Zone, and it was great. And they just kicked ass on high school football coverage. I mean, they covered games. They had a live talk call-in show, and I would call in, and this was when I was kind of doing my stuff and still a big fan of high school football. So I would call in and contribute. And one night I was on the phone and he said, you sound just kind of edgy tonight. And then the next night, pulled up the graphic, it said Edgy Tim, and I just kind of took it and ran with it. And I've been stuck with it for almost 30 years now. So that's where the name came from.
Love it.
Started the website. It was a yellow background with blue letters. It was the ugliest HOL homepage website you've ever seen. The first year I had 357 visitors. I think I was like 270. So, again, dial up is as bad as you could imagine. That's how bad it was. I just had a feeling, I don't know what you call it, an inspiration or a vision or something, that people needed to have more outlets for high school sports, for covering high school sports, for talking about high school sports, especially football. Illinois, we hear about basketball all the time. Oh, it's a basketball state. It's a great basketball state. I'm like, well, yeah, it is. But you know what? It's pretty good football here too. And it just kind of grew from that. I mean, played in high school, didn't play in college, went to the Harvard of the Midwest, Southern Illinois.
My alma mater, by the way.
Go Dogs. Hang on, hold on. I got something here for you.
Okay. All right. Edgy Tim digging into the basement archives here. What do we got? Oh man, that's legit. That's a legit Valley SAU jersey there.
Go Dogs or go home, babe. But so I did radio and TV when I was at SIU, like everyone else probably that was at SIU.
I was gonna say we were probably walking the same halls.
Yep. So I did some high school football there, and it just never the fever of high school football never really left, I guess is the best way to say it. Did some of that, got involved with more the recruiting, scouting aspect of it. Had a couple of friends that were a bit older that were college coaches, and one guy was running a service at that time, like it's been out of business for 20 years, but said, hey, go watch this kid or go watch that kid and let me know what you think. So I would write up a little, like literally handwritten, and I remember faxing him, like an actual fax, to send him my notes. And it just kind of grew from there, and just started bit by bit and piece by piece, piecing it together. And as I said, this will be my 29th season, and it's been a wild trip.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, fire away. What do you got? What do you got for Edgy Tim?
Well, I think you touched on it briefly when you said that you used to do this on dial-up. I'm curious from your perspective, and certainly we're talking on a podcast, which wasn't all that popular even a few years ago. But in your view, how has the landscape changed?
Wow.
Social media, all that, in terms of how you not only cover the game but how you report the game.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mean, in so many different ways it's changed. I mean, from, as you guys know, from the coverage standpoint, from video, I mean, it was a dream to be able to have video on a website when I started. I mean, it was like, come on. And you see what happens now, and then from the recruiting evaluation side with Huddle, and I mean, I used to have, my wife can tell you, I still have some containers in here of VHS videos from all across the state that I would get sent to have to sit here and watch off a VCR, and I'd have the coach's clicker as well, just trying to watch, video. So we went from that to Huddle, and it's been tremendous. In some ways, it's made it easier. In some ways, I mean, it's been a constant learning for me. I mean, yeah, I'm old as dirt and everything else. I've been doing it forever. But I mean, I really couldn't. Oh, I still don't think I can take a picture, but I attempt to take decent pictures these days. I ran a little bit of camera, obviously, when I was at SIU, but didn't do much of it. Now I'm running cameras all the time. So I had, like everyone else, I had to learn a lot on the fly, and it was a lot of technology thrown at you at once, and just to keep up. And Twitter, I haven't even gotten into that ridiculous fear and nightmare that it's become, but it's also been a huge bonus. And guys, just think about scores, getting scores from across the state. Where would we be without Twitter now compared to where we were before?
Mitch has become our Twitter guru. If I'm out covering a game on a Friday night, he's usually, sitting at home and watching. That's another thing, is live streaming. Mitch can watch a couple games without even leaving his house, and he'd be able to tweet out scores constantly. It's been a huge advancement. Now, Tim, I won't make you do it right now, but at some point you need to dig through that box of VHS tapes. And if there's one labeled M. Stormer, Mustangs quarterback, 2006, we're going to need to find that tape. So
I will, just for you guys, I will go through and see if I can pull some of it out. You'd be shocked. I've actually found a couple, and the kids I still know, I still stay in touch with.
Yeah.
I send them back the physical VHS. They're like, oh my God, where did you find this? It's like, telling you, still got some of this stuff. But yeah, there's no doubt, guys. It's been a trip. There's been a lot of changes. It continues to change constantly. Some good ways, as I mentioned, some bad ways. I mean, you guys are involved in the business and the media side, and what a train wreck that's become. I mean, we're losing people constantly, and that's not fun. You make friends with these people, and they have families, and you're seeing where this media landscape is going. It's not good these days. So it's
in a weird way, in less than whatever, three or 4 years now that we've been doing this podcast, I didn't really consider it when we started, but now it's like, when you look at it, especially in our Quad Cities media market, I mean, the sports coverage is getting, it's dwindling only because there's lack of staff. The staff there still loves it, and they still care about it, but they just can't be everywhere anymore. And I think I never considered it when we started the podcast, but we're kind of now filling a little bit of that void of that coverage that people are looking to. And that's great. I love that. And that makes me feel good. But man, it's sad too that, like you said, there's newspaper reporters, there's radio stations that they can't support a staff anymore. And it's crazy. And that's in the high school feels it the most, those high school coverage, and the small schools that, are left on the fringes. But
the crazy part about it, and you guys can attest to this as well, the passion hasn't changed.
nope.
It hasn't
No.
changed. It's gotten bigger.
Yeah.
To me, it's grown. I see it growing all the time. And, I know, God forbid, we'll never know what the streaming numbers are from IHSA TV. We'll never get those, but
No.
I would love to see how their numbers have grown along since they started streaming live games. I guarantee you it's increased. And, so the passion doesn't go, the market hasn't changed. There's still a demand for it, yet media companies continue to slash and hack and cut back on it, despite the fact that it's popular and people still want to. And God, don't even get me started. The whole TV end of it. I did a great show, an Emmy award-winning show on NBC Chicago.
Yep.
And that got canceled, and but again, it had nothing to do with the show. It had everything to do with the landscape of the business. So it's been, as someone that covers it and has friends that cover this, it's been frustrating to watch, but you just kind of put your head down and keep going, and you hope you work your way through it, and things change and things get better. That's what you hope for.
Yeah. I mean, I guess somewhere along the way, I hope that people recognize good coverage. And I guess when I say people, I mean management of, newspapers or local radio. I know we're lucky in this area that, we have WRMJ out in Aledo, and Jim Taylor and his son now, Ty, do a fantastic job. And that's kind of one where they've not only survived it, but they've kind of thrived. And I mean, Jim Taylor took ownership, took over like that kind of coverage, and John Hoscheid along with him 20 plus years ago, and really kind of made it their mantra to be local and be at those games. And it's been remarkable, so they do a great job. And I know there's other, I hate to, leave out some other ones too. I know that there's other local areas that still get some radio coverage and, that newspaper aspect, but it's, you hope that it gets recognized.
Great. They're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got, Mitch?
I was going to say, just to maybe turn it more positively in terms of how things have changed.
See, there I go negative again.
No, it's just, no, let's think of it as the other side of the coin. That, Tim, would you agree that maybe, though, the advances, like you said, with Huddle or social media, maybe gives the athletes a bigger hand up in getting
100%.
recognized?
100%, 1,000%. It's helped. Just Huddle alone, just a kid can literally go out there and sell themselves with their highlights, getting their resume. I mean, even Twitter, just your Twitter account, your front page of your Twitter account is the best introduction than just about anything else you can do these days. So yeah, there's positives. There's no doubt about it. And that's been a big positive for sure. It's completely changed the recruiting landscape in a lot of different ways. So yeah, no, that's for sure. There's no doubt about it. There have been positives to it as well.
Well, I'm sure you've been hitting the road the last few weeks and visiting high schools. You've probably been doing it all summer, I suppose, but
all year, really.
Yeah, there you go. So I guess talk a little bit about the upcoming season. What have you seen? What are you looking forward to? I guess we'll start with what teams, if I guess speaking to our listening area, the western side of the state, what teams do they need to know about outside of our area?
Well, you guys know that. I mean, you guys have a better handle on that than I do. You can just laugh at what I tell you, but I really hopped on the Quincy bandwagon last year.
I'm driving that bus.
All right, there you go. So I had a chance to see them a bit, and Braden Little I got to know, and Coach Rich, and saw them this summer. Was impressed with them skill wise. They can really sling it. Ran into a really good Lamont team in the playoffs last year, and it looks like everything I'm looking at has them projected in 7A this year, which in some ways it's good because they can avoid Lamont, because Lamont and East St. Louis aren't going anywhere in 6. But yeah, Quincy for sure is a team in the area. Moline obviously had a big year last year. I had a chance to see that last game against Sterling. Sterling doesn't go away. They just get better every year. So, it's so you have the quad city teams, and then obviously Sterling, Newman in the small classes as well. I know you wanted some different, maybe some sleepers in some of the other classes. I mean, I don't know. I look at, from my perspective, I've heard a lot about Althoff in 1A.
Okay.
transfers that have come in there that all of a sudden it sounds like the football program maybe is starting to turn around to the positive side again for Althoff. So they're a team to watch, certainly in 1A. And then Hope Academy up in Chicago. And I know everyone goes, oh, okay, yeah, well, they're not going to be any good. They're going to get beat. But
Yeah.
it's first of all, just knowing their story, it's pretty amazing that there's even a football team there some years. It's in a really rough area of the city. But Coach Mallet has done a terrific job there. He's got one of his sons as one of his younger players. It's a pretty good team. So there's some talent. So they could be a team you don't want to run into early.
They've developed a little rivalry with Ottawa Marquette going back over the years, which has been kind of fun. And that was kind of something that came out of nowhere when Marquette was playing independent. So anyway, yeah, that's a team that's always kind of on my radar in 1A.
Am I mistaken? I see Quincy Notre Dame in 2A.
They could be, man. Yeah.
So
Well, when you said Althoff down in 1A, it kind of makes me, turn my head like, what?
Yeah. So projections I see have them in 2A. And if you guys obviously know, if Quincy Notre Dame goes to 2A,
yep,
big move down. And then another one, Marion Central Catholic out of Woodstock, Liam Kerwin, who's their second-year head coach. Scary. I covered him when he was a player, so I'll tell you how old I'm getting. But they're a team to definitely keep an eye out for. There's some good talent there. Their tight end, Christian Betancourt, is going to a little school called Clemson. You guys might have heard of it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some talent there. And I mean, 3A again. Our projections look at Montini as possibly a 3A. I think Montini's going to be a little bit more Montini-like as opposed to in the last few years. Had a chance to see him this summer. Chicago Phillips possibly in 3A, but guys, I don't know. This isn't a Phillips team that I think people got used to.
Okay.
I think they're a little bit down, but we'll see. It's still a name to certainly watch out for. And working your way up. I mean, we could do all 8 classes. I could do whatever.
I think I'm just always interested to hear. I mean, we cover the teams on the western side of the state, but until the year gets going, I really don't know who to watch for everywhere else. So I'm always interested to hear who you've been seeing. Mitch, you had something, Mitch?
Yeah, Tim, let me ask you, because a team that we've run into in the playoffs a couple of times, and certainly always discussion of what class they play in, that recently joined, I think the CCL Blue is IC Catholic.
Yeah.
And it looks like their schedule is just a gauntlet.
How ridiculous is that schedule?
It's insane.
Yeah.
And are you still seeing them as 3A this year?
Yeah.
Okay. So they might get in at 5-4.
Actually, I'm looking at it now. We've got them at 4.
Okay. Yeah. Because their multiplier hasn't kicked in. So they'll be one of those border teams again. But
you have that schedule. Look at Wheaton St. Francis, which is in the same conference with them.
Mm-hmm.
Their schedule is ridiculous. So just the fact, and you guys, we've seen this every year. You get one of those teams that are 5-4, but they're not a 5-4.
Yeah.
They're a very scary 5-4, and they could be one of those teams for sure.
It's like East St. Louis coming in at 6-3, and then no one stands a chance.
Right, and they're going to be the same. I mean, I could tell you guys from my end, the week 1 game that's got the most talk and the most buzz easily is East St. Louis and Mount Carmel at Illinois State that first Saturday night. Okay, I'll be there. No shocker. But a lot of buzz about that game. Mount Carmel could be as good or even better than they were last year. That's how good the talent is coming back. And East St. Louis is East St. Louis. So again, they're going to be right at the very top. When it comes to national polls, you'll hear those 2 names thrown around quite a bit. Loyola's interesting. New head coach, still have 120 kids on their varsity roster. So same old Loyola in 8A. And that's a name you're going to hear about. Lincoln Way East, again, is another team. And, you hate talking usual suspects, but in more cases than not, you guys know, we're usually talking about usual suspects going into the preseason.
You mean like Lita Winslow? We'll probably be talking about that,
Right. I don't even talk 1A anymore. What's the point? Pick a team for the NUIC and just move on with your life. 1A and 2A. Whoever's in 1A and 2A, that's who I'm picking. And
and there's a matchup too, Tim, that we're looking at on our side. I think it's week 5. It's the defending 1A champs and the defending 2A champs.
I did see that.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And that's great. I mean, I wish more schools would get the guts to do that. I really do. And to me, you just don't see it enough. And
Well, I think you're seeing it. I think you're seeing it maybe more than you have. One, COVID certainly changed things with scheduling, but now that we see conference realignments and maybe uneven schedules, we get Princeton and Sterling this year. I wish we had that. I wish we had that last year. But we have been seeing that more and more often. So, but to your point, credit to those teams who, and we help on our side too. If we know a team has an opening, we try and promote that to other places. I know Newman, a 1A school or 2A school this year is going to play Rock Island, which they might not have a shot against, but kudos to both teams for putting it on. Kudos to both teams for putting it on the schedule to not have a bye week. So, I do think we've seen that more recently, but like you said, it would be great to see more and more like the Mount Carmels and the East St. Louis's play against each other. So hopefully this starts a trend.
So can we talk 1 through 32 yet or no?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, we can get there. But
I have an opinion.
This scheduling talk though did make me want to ask you.
Sure, go ahead.
What are your thoughts? Mitch and I kind of disagreed over the years. What are your thoughts on district football in Illinois?
Never gonna work.
No.
Now, I guess my question would be: do you think you'd like it? You personally?
I'm open to anything, and I remember looking at some of those examples. And it looked like some areas it works. And again, when you're talking versus conferences, if you look at some of those districts looked almost identical. So in some cases they wouldn't be affected. The biggest problem with districts is the city of Chicago, guys. That is the biggest problem, because you're going to clump in some of these lower tier Chicago public league schools in with Mount Carmel and St. Rita and everything else. Never happened. That alone would kill it. And then you've got tradition of these conferences. You've got, the West Suburban Conference, which has been together for years, have been very little movement. They all stick together. Tradition, and don't even get it started with the Catholic League and everything else that, Now we can dig a little bit deeper if you want and ask me if I think about public-private. We can get into that. That might change or districts, but that's a whole other.
How much time you got, Tim?
This is it, guys. This is my life. You have young kids. My kids are all grown up.
You're hitting all the the talking points that we've had over the past couple years.
I've been doing this for a little while, so
yeah. The public-private thing, that can't happen, right?
I tell you what. When I saw that the IHSA in their infinite wisdom created a committee to explore it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys saw that. I'm very interested to see what happens, because the one thing that we have never seen that put on a member-wide ballot.
Yeah.
Guys, if it goes to a member-wide ballot, I think it passes.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous. Yeah, that would make me nervous. And I'm biased. Bias isn't the right word, but I'm focused on Ottawa Marquette, my alma mater.
Right.
And I look at it and think they are hung out to dry. They have no shot. If it goes to a private only, there's just not enough. They're the smallest football playing school anyway. Well, I think maybe Madison is smaller by a few, but they're the smallest anyway, let alone private schools. Forget it. They're not even close to being in the mix. So anyway, that's my own personal argument, but we'd be here all night.
Well, and Sterling Newman falls into the same thing, such a traditional program, and certainly past couple of years haven't been what they've been, but
right. And you have those,
and no offense to them, but they wouldn't stand a chance in a format like that.
Right. And you have the same situation to be all across the state. I mean, you guys with Quincy Notre Dame, and then closest is what, Sacred Heart probably, and then you'd have to pull Breeze Mater Dei into that, and I mean you're just so spread out. And let's face it, I mean there's a reason why most of them are clumped in the Chicagoland areas, because it's the largest population area. So, but like you said, we can come back and do 4 hours on this.
But let's assume that doesn't happen. Okay. Tim, how would you fix and I don't know if fix is the word, but seeing teams like Quincy Notre Dame in 2A, seeing teams like IC Catholic in 3A, where they might have an advantage. What would be your idea to fix that?
I mean,
where IC would play maybe up to their level.
Well, again, look at the numbers. Look at what you're using already. Look at the multiplier. Look at the success factor. I mean, look, we're the most taxed state in the union, right? So what's another couple of extra taxes thrown onto our football teams' enrollments? I mean, if that's going to keep people happy and satisfied, then I think it's worth doing. I think the biggest mistake they, meaning the IHSA and the membership, can make is the split apart from private, because I think then it really changes the sport, and not in a really good way. But
yeah,
we'll come back.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll debate that.
Well, okay. On that note, let's flip to 1 verse 32.
There we go. Now on to the next hot button topic. 1 through 32.
All right, let's go. First of all, the only thing I've heard about 1 through 32 is what I saw out of the Daily Herald back in June. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
I don't know if I did.
I will dig it up and I will link it, or I'll send you guys a link that you have it. It was out of the Daily Herald. I believe it was John Radke, who's a longtime writer. If it's not, I apologize, but they had something in there and I will find it. It was an interview with Craig Anderson.
Okay.
And Craig Anderson talked about 1 through 32 and said, basically it's been shelved. Why do you think it's been shelved? Gas prices. Okay.
Again.
Again. So my question is, if we can go back and pass as a membership 1 through 32 and then selectively apply it or not apply it, can we go back and get rid of 8 classes and go back to 5 selectively?
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's going. You asked me what coaches I've talked to and what do they think of it. Guys, I don't know if I've talked to a coach that was ever against 1 through 32.
I feel like I read articles when it first came out, and I think a lot of the concern was more in the southern half of the state. And
right.
Yeah. But then again, you turn around and you look at Geneseo played Carterville in the first round of the playoffs. So my argument then was, it's happening anyway. So like, I know that was maybe an isolated, that was one of the longer trips, but it still happens. So
the way the state is set up, you're never going to avoid that.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have to make a long bus ride.
Mm-hmm.
My point being, number one, what's so wrong with a long bus ride?
Yeah, exactly.
You are missing such a large part of the educational piece with high school football and the benefits when you take those long bus rides away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are kids in East St. Louis that might not ever know what's outside of East St. Louis. I guarantee you there are kids in the city of Chicago that have never been south of Joliet or never been west of, Ottawa or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You get out, you get to a different part of the state, which a lot of kids could be like a completely different world. You learn to compete and play with and against kids that you never would have seen otherwise. There are so many values to that. And talk to coaches, guys, you talk to them all the time. They'll tell you the same thing. So I'm not against bus rides at all. And I think you're going to have it whether you have 1 through 32 or not. The thing that I hate, and we saw it in the larger classes, and notice, by the way, there's no talk of getting rid of it in 8A and 7A.
Yeah.
Because they like it and it works.
Yeah, exactly.
So what drives me the craziest about 1 through 32, it's not even the travel. It's having to play the same damn team every single year. That has to end.
Well, and we get that. What do we have, Greg? In the 1A North quarterfinals, we had 3 of the 4 teams out of the NUIC. Like that
Absolutely.
should. Right. And now that could probably happen even no matter what your rankings are. But
it can, but let it naturally happen.
Yeah, right.
Force it to happen. Let it naturally happen. If the seeding works out that way, no one can complain.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it happen in 7 and 8A. We've seen 2 conference opponents square off in round 1. What was it? It was Naperville North took on Naperville Central. And you know what? Either side had a complaint or a gripe at all because that's what the seeding played out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's my whole take on it. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think they're going to shelve it, and they might come back a few years from now and look at it. But for whatever reason, it's on hold.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the point that you hit that I think is most important there is that it was voted on and
Right.
approved.
Right.
And now we just decide that that's irrelevant, that a vote that passed was now irrelevant. So yeah, how many other things can we just go back and change after? Like,
I mean,
that's
it's
ridiculous.
their ball. It's their ball, and I guess they can take it and go home if they want. But I would just like to know what the mindset and the thought was.
Yeah.
And I know Craig, and again, I'm paraphrasing, and my fault. I should have had it in front of me, but mentioned that he had spoken to different school administrators and that they were against it, that they saw how the brackets fell this past playoff year and just said, no, that we can't do this. So,
Man. Yeah, that's disappointing. I guess I hadn't seen that conversation. So that's disappointing. I was hoping we were turning the corner and getting closer to it, but
I wish.
All right. Let's pivot to 8-man football. You've kind of come to love 8-man football. I heard you talking to Jason Kirby last year on your podcast.
Yeah, and we're going to do more of it too, for sure.
Awesome.
I mean, even I was jonesing in the off season. I just finished 2 seasons of Texas 6 on Paramount Plus.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm totally in. I mean, it's obviously it's different. It's fun. And the thing I love the most, guys, and I'm sure you'll agree, you've got schools that are 80, 90, 100 years old, and you're asking them to co-op and get rid of all their history. They don't have to with this.
Yeah.
And I love that. And you know what? And I know there's 2 sides of this. I've talked to 1A and 2A coaches, and they tell me, you know, they're trying to keep that level of football going, and 8-man is not going to help. But I mean, I think, and guys, here's something else let's throw in. Let's throw in flag football. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see a startup of girls flag football. The Chicago Bears and the NFL's gotten behind it. Why not? What the hell?
I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter about it.
You're going to see more. They're getting more involved. I think they're sponsoring more things. I know the IHSA is working with them on stuff now. It's going to continue. And for my book, guys, more football, the better. So if it's 8-man, if it's girls flag, whatever, if kids are playing football in some form or another, I think it's nothing but positive for the sport.
Yeah. Mitch, did you have something?
No, I was just thinking, you know, as we've probably seen with dwindling numbers in football throughout communities, and if that's because of maybe concerns with injuries, certainly, and there's a solution to that. Yeah, I'm all for it.
And I love, and I think that's a big part of it. I think that flag has allowed these communities, because I see it even in the larger school districts, in the 7 and the 8As, you see 7th and 8th grade night, and this is public school as well, where they're getting kids to start playing flag football different times of the year. Why not? It's, you know, it's keeping a foot in and just trying to keep that door open, that maybe when those kids come into high school, you transition them from flag over to tackle. Some of the coaches I've talked to said they've had a lot of success with that so far. Go for it. Why not?
So what's up the next couple weeks, the next month, as you prepare for the season? What keeps you busy here?
Nonsense. Just everything. I mean, you know, I'll jam out a bunch of conference previews. I'll do video aspects of it. I'll do written aspects of it. I do my own radio show in 1340 WJOL in Joliet. I have for over 20 years.
Yeah.
That's complete nonsense. So that keeps me busy, and it's a lot of fun. I have a blast doing it. And yeah, just getting ready for the season. A lot of recruiting stuff as well, which keeps me busy. A lot of top list and, you know, all the usual fun stuff that you come to expect for the preseason. So yeah, looking forward to it. Like I said, year 29. And, you know, someone asked me, when am I going to retire? I said, I'm never going to retire. You see that 50-yard line over there? You're going to find me, just drop down there, off and start the game back up. That's my plan.
So Tim, as we get closer here, as we mentioned, about 30 days, and we talked already about Mount Carmel and St. Louis. Two-parter question here. One, what what are a couple games maybe statewide to look forward to that have your attention, and maybe two, who from a recruit standpoint, from an athlete standpoint, who are some of the better athletes in the state to to listen for their names this season?
Wow. Okay.
I know that's a loaded question. I understand that.
No, it's a good question though. If I was half a professional, I would have been prepared for it. But that's to be open. I think from a game standpoint, and again, I'm a week to week guy. So, people are surprised. It's like, I haven't come out and picked the top 10 games for the next 9 weeks. I haven't done that. I picked about 25, 30 games week one that are top. And I do that with my deciding where I go for games too. The nice part about last year was the first season I didn't have any television responsibilities, which means I got the hell out of Chicagoland and went and see some real football outside of Chicago, which was fun, which I love doing. That's one of my most favorite things doing. I should have been a truck driver or something because I love getting in the car and just going. And I do that. I put a lot of miles on. Went to Moline, had to go to Moline, still getting grief from the Moline fans because I didn't stop at Whitey's to get ice cream.
Rookie mistake.
Now, wait a minute. I do Rips Chicken every time I'm heading out there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's number one. So I'm
absolutely.
Number two, I've had Whitey's ice cream before and it's delicious, but it was also like 50 degrees and raining that night. And I didn't exactly have the taste for ice cream. So kill me. Okay. But I have a couple of surprise places I'm going to go to this year. One is a historic home field, legendary home field that a lot of people in the state have never been to. I've been there once already, but I'm going to go again. It's been a long time. I'm not telling you where I'm going.
Oh, you're not? That's a tease.
That's
man.
a
You're
tease.
not. Oh, my goodness.
You'll see.
Okay.
See.
All right. Like it.
You'll see. As far as top recruits, I mean, I'm like, my head's swirling. I'm thinking about the class of 2027, like who's the top kids. I mean, that's how far out it's gotten and far, just crazy all over the place with recruiting. I'm thinking Glenbard South with Cam Williams, who's been committed to Notre Dame for a while. It's crazy. It's like if you're a senior, a lot of these kids have done recruiting for like a year and a half. It's just that whole process has gotten so much further out. You've got 7th graders and 8th graders getting Power 5 college offers these days. It gets nuttier as the days grow along. But just go to my site in a week and I'll give you a whole damn list of every top kid in the state you want. I've got them. I'm just not going to be rude and put you on pause.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, historically then, best athlete you've covered.
Okay, that's a really good question, and I get it every once in a while. So I answer it in 2 ways. One, from a recruiting aspect, a kid that I saw in high school that was the best athlete I ever saw was Eddie George.
Yeah.
Coming out of high school.
Yep.
Saw him at a Nike camp in Ohio. Guys, there should not be human beings that big, that strong, that run that fast. It just should not happen. And he was everything and then some. And he was unbelievably impressive from from the state of Illinois perspective. Still to this day, one of my favorite all-time players to cover and to watch because he was absolutely amazing was Antoine Randall when he was at Thornton.
Yep.
Went on to Indiana, was a Heisman candidate in Indiana, ended up playing in the pros, was with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a while, and he's actually back coaching. I think he was coaching at Detroit. I don't know if he's still with the Lions or not. But he was unbelievable. And again, for your basketball people, he was part of that Thornton team that just had, they had some phenomenal athletes those couple of years. And Antoine was special. There was a few others, but Antoine was just that unbelievable option quarterback that talk about changing a game with a run or a carry. He was that guy. So
and at the time you didn't see it like you see it today. Like you didn't see a quarterback doing that, all the time. So
and he was a guy that could throw it just as well. So he was truly, Justin Fields 20 years before Justin Fields. Wasn't as big, wasn't as physical. He was smaller, which made everything that he was able to accomplish that much more impressive. So yeah, Antoine Randall for sure, one of the guys right at the very top for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, you got Matt Lang already working the phones and getting the info for you.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Just point him in a direction and say, come back when you got some information. So we'll have probably within a week or so, we'll get something out early. And
awesome.
But yeah, I mean, again, just you guys do tremendous work. I told you before, I've been following it since you guys started up. It's great. It's informative. It's well done. It's professional. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there doing stuff, and it's just so much better when it's just the way it's presented, the way you guys produce everything. It's great stuff. So keep doing it.
Good. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember, Mitch, I think it's probably been a couple years ago, but I think it was like, we started a podcast and it was like, oh my God, I think Edgy Tim just retweeted our stuff. Like, holy cow. So yeah, no, but I really appreciate you coming on. It's great.
Good though. You know what? And you guys do that too. When you guys see someone out there that is trying to do it, and now if it's a direct competitor or something, okay, I get it. But I mean, I still try to do that. There's a lot of good people out there that have, started their own sites. A lot of the school stuff too. A lot of schools have started up their coverage, their TV, and they do a great job. And hey, man, you know what? I got no problem helping them out and trying to promote them because we've all been there.
Yeah.
So,
great.
All been there.
Well,
hey, it took me 11 years to get a media credential from the IHSA.
Yeah.
11.
Man.
I saved these.
Yeah. There you go.
So when people ask me why I saved these, I say because it took me 11 damn years to get one of these.
Are you looking forward to going back to Illinois State?
Yes, I was a big proponent. And I tell you what, at least the fans that I talk to on a regular basis felt the exact same way, that they remember Hancock and they remember some of those great games and the way it was set up, and it felt big and it sounded big and it played big. And I think that's what people are really looking forward to. Have you guys been down there lately? Because they've done some really, really big improvements, and basically the visitor side is the home side now. They've completely built that up. It's great. They're starting to open their indoor. They just opened a bubble, so they've got an indoor facility where teams can work out. Yeah, I think fans can be real happy with the layout at Illinois State. I think they'll be impressed. So yeah, I'm thrilled about it.
So my dad and my brother went to Illinois State, but I bucked the trend and went to Southern Illinois.
Oh,
so
boy.
they're
my kids did, and they're out of the will. So
so they are very familiar with Illinois State, and yeah, I've been down there for one of the games when they were in the middle of the renovation, and yeah, you could tell it was going to be something great. And now that it's here, I think it's a great central location, and yeah, I'm excited for that as well. So
it'll be a blast.
Yes, Edgy Tim, thank you so much for being here. To anyone listening, of course, follow Edgy Tim on Twitter if you're not already. He has great content from high school football across the state. Edgy Tim, edgytim.com, of course, as well. Mitch, what do you got?
Last question for Tim.
Yep.
Bears, over under 5 wins this year.
Over.
I think so.
Yeah, I like it. Like it. And I know you're a White Sox fan, but we're not going to get into that on this one. So
Why?
I'm also a suffering White Sox fan, so it's a good thing.
There's a connection here. Okay?
I know.
We can talk about the first place Reds if you want, but maybe that's for
hey, you know what though? That's kind of a good story.
Honestly. That's a fun story. Yeah,
it's
Big Red Machine. Come on.
You've been here for 9 years now. I think if you asked the population if they would rather see a Reds World Series or a Bengals Super Bowl, it would be at best split. The baseball spirit in this town is, absolutely.
I would say Reds World Series myself.
Yeah, the baseball fanatics here are really special. So this season's a lot of fun, and I haven't been down this year, or I might have went to opening day. I think I did. I'm going in a couple of weeks, so it'll be cool to see what the atmosphere is like here, getting down to the final stretch.
Well, when are they going to start making some trades?
I don't know. If anything, they need an arm, but
White Sox, we still got some pieces.
We still got parts to sell.
Oh, we got all kinds of parts to sell.
That's the interesting part for the Reds, because I don't think they're in a win now type of situation. They're built to last for a couple years. So I would hate them to see them move apart for a rental piece.
We've got
we'll see.
We've got DH first baseman Yang.
Yep.
We got like 4 or 5 of those guys. If you need them, just let us know.
We might be able to sacrifice a bat for one of your arms, but that would be it.
Yeah. I'm just glad it's football season, or almost football season. And
how about it? Oh my God.
And Mitch, when you go to that,
thank you.
When you go to that Reds game, boy, tell me what meaningful baseball feels like, because I don't know anymore. So
yep, I will.
All right. Well,
thanks,
hey, Edgy Tim, we'll keep in touch. Definitely. We'll talk to each other throughout the season. So thank you so much for being here. And if you come to this area, look us up. We'll be around.
I will. Next time it's on my dime, and we'll definitely do this again.
Sounds good. Thanks. See you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Mitch, that's a great interview. That is a great way to kick off high school football season.
Yeah, with every passing day, with every passing interview, every passing team preview that's about to come out, it just seems like we're moving the ball down the field a little bit, and it's just we're that much closer to August 25th, and really exciting.
That's right. Next week will be our Northwest Upstate Illini preview and our 8-man football preview. We'll be joined by Kyle Kampmeyer. That'll come out on Tuesday, August 8th. On August 10th, a couple days later, 2 episodes of View from the West in 1 week. Mitch, this is exciting times. That will be our Lincoln Land Conference preview. And like you said, with more teams joining now, Lincoln Trail and Prairie Land, that's going to be a big episode on Thursday the 10th.
Yeah, that's a lot of research I got to put in. I got to look at the uniforms, Greg. I got to see what these new teams look like.
Absolutely. Well,
that's my number one goal here.
That's right. Well, Mitch, get your homework done. Quickly, before we wrap up, I do want to thank our sponsors, Breedlove Sporting Goods, Mathewson's Mini Helmets, and Brink Sportswear. They'll be along all season for the ride with us. Thank you to everyone who listens. Keep joining us next week for our season previews. That's when things really get fun. Mitch, we will talk to you down the road in Dallas, I suppose, the next time see you.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.